Hey there, friends. What up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tezvav, Daf 15 of Masechta Megillah. Wow, that was nice. I laughed a little bit there. I had a little chuckle, and I almost coughed, but I didn't. Anyways, how's everybody else doing? Everybody else, y'all got coughs also? Beginning of the winter, right? Let's go weiter. So, wait, just gonna roll up my sleeves a little bit. Yeah, if you're rolling up the sleeves, that means that things are getting serious. One second, let me just bring my tea a little bit closer. I got tea again tonight. It's very nice over here. Friends, we're moving on. Masechta Megillah. We are just continuing going through the verses in the Megillah and expounding them and talking about other interesting things. So let's just let's do it. Friends, we're on Daf Tezvav 2, 4, about 6 lines into the after it already starts getting wide on Tezvav and Mud Aleph. So, Omer of Nachman, says of Nachman. I think there's Taka Girsa that says Omer Rav, in the name of Rav. Okay, but what's more exciting is about what he says. Malachi ze Mordechai. Ho 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 ho. Ha ha. That Malachi, the last of the Trei Asar, that's Mordechai. Mordechai equals Malachi. V'lama nikashmo Malachi. So if his name is Mordechai, what do they call him Malachi? Shahaya Mishnah LaMelech. Well, because he was very close to the king. So Melech, Malachi, Meisve. We have a kasha. Baruch ben Neriah v'Sarya ben Maasiyah. I for a number of years, I would work at a cafe, I worked from home, worked remotely, so I would go to cafes all the time to work. And so I went to the Y Cafe for a few years. And at the Y Cafe, there was a fellow over there named Sarya. Anyways, so Baruch ben Neriah v'Sarya ben Maasiyah v'Daniel u'Mordechai Bilshon v'Chag Zechariah u'Malachi kula nisnamu b'shna shtayim d'Daryavish. They all prophesied in the second year of Daryavish. Can anybody spot the problem? The problem is that we're identifying there Malachi as well as Mordechai, i.e., there are two separate people, two separate persons. And therefore, how can we say that Malachi and Mordechai are the same person if we seem to be listing them separately? Again, right? It says, Baruch ben Neriah v'Sarya ben Maasiyah v'Daniel u'Mordechai Bilshon v'Chag Zechariah u'Malachi kula nisnavu b'shna shtayim d'Daryavish. They all prophesied in the second year of Daryavish. So clearly, Malachi and Mordechai are two different individuals. Tiyuvta, it's a kasha. Tanya, we talk a little in a brayso. Bishua ben Korcha, Malachi ze Ezra. Ho ho. That Malachi is actually Ezra. The Chacham say Malachi Shmo, that his name is Taka Malachi. That's his real name, is Malachi. Omer of Nachman bar Yitzchok, says of Nachman bar Yitzchok. Mistavik man Omer Malachi ze Ezra. Taka makes sense to say that Malachi is Ezra. This is amazing stuff, friends. The pasuk says Benvius Malachi. It says in the prophecy of Malachi, Bogdo Yehuda v'Suev v'Neses of Yisrael, that the Yidden were being nudniks, uvi Yerushalayim, and in Jerusalem, Ki Chilel Yehuda Kodesh Hashem Asher Oiv, that Judah desecrated that which is holy of God, Uval Bas El Nechar, and he cohabited with a Gentile woman. Uman afish noshim nachrios, and who was the one who separated the Gentile woman from the Jewish men? Ezra. That's Ezra. The pasuk says, "V'yan shchanya ben Yechiel mibnei Elam vayomer leEzra, anachnu ma'anu be'Elokeinu v'anoshev noshim nachrios." Let's read that again. So V'yan shchanya ben Yechiel. So Shchanya ben Yechiel answered, mibnei Elam, from the children of Elam, vayomer leEzra, and Itaka said to Ezra, Anachnu ma'alnu be'Elokeinu, we have rebelled against God, v'anoshev noshim nachrios, and we have settled with Gentile women. So we see that both Malachi and Ezra are referring to distancing from Gentile women. So therefore, it makes sense to say that Malachi and Ezra are Taka, the same fellow. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, There were 4 very, very beautiful women in the world. Sarah, Avigail, Rachov, Esther. And they are Sarah and Avigail and Rachov and Esther. And according to the opinion that Esther was green, so Mapik Esther Ma'il Vashti. So swap out Esther for Vashti in that list. Rachov Bishma Zinso, that Rachov, her kind of secret power of Znus was saying her name. That was like a big deal, I guess. Yael Bikola, and Yael was her voice. Her voice was, I guess, very seductive or something. Avigail B'Zchirasa, Avigail, you would remember her. That was very powerful. Michal Bashol B'Riyasa, and Michal Bashol, when you glanced at her, that was I don't know, that was like a thing. Amr Yitzchak says Yitzchak, Kol Omer Rachov Rachov Miyad Nikre, as we saw a Gemara in Masechta Taanis, that anybody who says Rachov twice immediately becomes a Balkari. Amr Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman says to Rav Yitzchak, Onamina Rachov Rachov Lo Ichbasli. He says, I could say Rachov all day long and I don't become a Balkari. Amr Lekia Kamina Biyodov Makira. So it says Rav Yitzchak, yeah, in order to become a Balkari, you have to have known her. It's not enough to just say Rachav all day. Mordechai Yoda is Kalasher Naisa. Mordechai knew exactly what happened there with Haman and Achashverosh. So, and then it says, right, Vayikra, what is it? Mordechai Yoda is Kalasher Naisa. Vayikra Mordechai is Bigada, Vayilbash Sak, Vayifra, Vayetze Besochir, Vayizak, Zaika Gdolu Umara. That's what the pasuk says, that he cried out a great cry. So, my Omar, what was he crying out? So Rav Omar Gava Haman me'achashverish. So Rav says that, well, Haman is really getting very haughty over there with Achashverosh, and he's attempting to do even what Achashverosh didn't think of, which was to kill all the Jews. Ushmul Amar Gover Malka Ilah Mimalka Tato. And those who are saying that the king of above sort of became stronger than the king down below, but it's a euphemism, really, to say the opposite, that, Kilu Achashverosh is doing something really terrible. So, and Esther got very scared, right, when she heard, right, that Mordechai was outside making such a big deal and to do and crying out. She got very scared. So, my vatischalchal, what does it mean that vatischalchal? So, tischalchal also means like halal, like the inside of the body. Rav sheper, sheper senida. So, Rav says that she taka became a nida. Rabbi Yirmiyah Amar shu tzcholin kavel. So, Rabbi Yirmiyah says that she taka needed to go to the bathroom. Vatikra Esther la Hasoch. Esther then called out to Hasoch, who was to go and find out what exactly Mordechai was doing, like what's going on. Omer Rav Hasoch ze Daniel. So says Rav that Hasoch is taka Daniel. So why do they call him Hasoch if his name is Daniel? Shechatchu migdulaso, that they lowered him from his position, that he used to be sort of an advisor to the king, and now he was just kind of helping out Esther. Shmuel Amar Shkol Divrei Malchus Nechtochen Al Piv, where Shmuel says no, what Hasoch means is taka, I guess the opposite, that all the words and the matters of the kingship went through his word, right? Went through Daniel. So that is why Daniel is called Hasoch. Okay. It says the pasuk in the Megilla L'das Mazeh Ve'al Mazeh that Esther sent to Mordechai to figure out like what in the world is going on. She says, "Adas ma'zeh ve'al mazeh." Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi Yitzchak shalchalo, that she sent to Mordechai, Shema Avu Yisrael Chamisha Chum Shitor. Is it possible that the Yidden maybe violated the 5 books of Moses, the Chsivba, and that it says about them, Mize u'mize im ksuvim, that they are written from this side and that side? So Mize u'mize is like Ladas mazeh ve'al mazeh, that she suggested was, is it possible that the Yidden haven't been following the Torah? And they told Mordechai what Esther said, lo azul legabe. But Daniel did not go back, right? We said a second ago that Hasach is Daniel. So Hasach initially went to Mordechai to figure out what the issue is. Then when Daniel brought back the message to Esther, and Esther says, look, I can't just go into Achashverosh. So when she responded that way, it didn't say like, yes, I'll do whatever you want, but instead she kind of said like, look, like, it's just, I don't see how this could work. I can't go into, right? She what was it? That she hadn't been called into Achashverosh for 30 days. Right? What was it? Lazeh Shloshim Yom or something. Okay, fine. So Mikan She'ein Meshivin al Kalkala. So we see from here that we don't reply on sort of something negative, meaning Daniel Hasach had relayed the words of Mordechai to Esther, and then when Esther sort of was not into this and she was sort of hesitating, so then he did not return the message back to Mordechai, rather somebody else relayed the message back. That go and, so then Esther says to Mordechai, look, you go and gather together all the Yidden and fast, right? And then she says that then, with this, I will go into Achashverosh, not, I guess, uninvited. Amr Ba'aba says, Abba, Shelo Kedas Hoyo. So says Rabbi Abba, what it means that when she says that she'll go in to Achashverosh Shelo Kados, right? Like not like with the laws. So Shelo Kedas Hoyo. That Kilu was against the Torah. Kilu Shelo, what does it say? Shelo Kedas Kol Yom Vayom Shebechol Yom Vayom Be'onis. Was it Shebechol Yom Vayom Arachshav Be'onis V'Achshav B'Ratzon? That up until now, every time that Esther had been with Achashverosh, she was against her will. Right? She didn't volunteer. But over here, she's actually volunteering to go into Achashverosh now. And it says, V'chasher avadti avadti. And Esther says, and what I have lost, Kasher avadti mi beis Abba, kach oved mimcha. Just like I got lost from my parents' house, as we learned the other day, that, as the pasuk in the Megilla says, Kein lo ava'im. But, right, we learned that when her mother conceived, her father died, and when she was born, her mother died. So, just like she was lost from her father's house, kach oved mimcha, she's also going to lose Mordechai, her husband, because, if a woman, if Achashverosh would have been with her against her will, like up until now, so she could still be with Mordechai. But once she is already sort of entering on her own accord, so then she would no longer be able to be with Mordechai, and that's why she says, Kasher avati, just like I got lost from my parents' house, I'm also getting lost from Mordechai. We have a Mordechai, and then Mordechai went and he did everything that Esther says. Homer Rav says, Rav Shehevir Yom Rishon Shal Pesach B'tainis, that he was taka fasting on the first day of Pesach, because all this happened very, very quickly, right? In the month of Nisan, that on the 13th was when there was that lottery, and then on the 14th and the 15th, the Yidden were fasting, and then on the 16th, Haman was already killed. So it teaches that they were fasting on the first day of Pesach, right? Because they fasted on the 14th and the 15th of Nisan. So again, Vayavar Mordechai Omer Rav Shehevir Yom Rishon Shal Pesach B'tainis, that Mordechai was fasting on the first day of Pesach. Shmuel Omer David Arkuma Demaya, and Shmuel says that it means that Itaka passed through a pond of water, okay, in order to reach the other Yidden on the other side of the pond. Alright. Vayibayom Ashlishi, it was on the third day, Vatubash Esther Malchus, and Esther adorned herself in kingship. Big day Malchus mi boile. Shouldn't it say that she adorned herself in the garments of the kingship. What does it mean that she adorned herself in kingship? So Amr Belazar, Amr B'chanino, it teaches that she was adorned in heavenly spirit and divine spirit. It says over here, it says over here that Vatilbash, that she put on this kingly clothing. It also says that that a heavenly spirit wrapped, adorned Amosai. Okay, so we see that Esther was adorned in divine spirit. Says Rabbi Elazar in the name of Rabbi Chanina that the blessing of a lowly fellow should never be taken lightly. That there were the great leaders of the generation that were blessed by two simple people, and the blessing came to fruition. This is a reference to David and Daniel. David de Barche Aravna, that David was blessed by Aravna. The Chassidus, it says, Vayomer Aravna Elamelech, that Aravna said to the king, Vigomer, what did he say? Vayomer Aravna Elamelech Hashem Elokecha Yirtzecho, that the Eibishter is going to want you, to appease you. Daniel, and by Daniel, it says, the Barche Dayavish, that Dayavish blessed him. The Pasuk says, Elokoch, the Antpolach Lebetadira, your God who you pray to often, who Yishizvenech, he should, may he save you. V'amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Chanina, Al tikil lasejed kali benecho, that the curse of a simple fellow should not be taken lightly. Shari Avimelech kila l'Sarah, because after all, Avimelech cursed Sarah after she said that she was Avram's sister. Hineu l'chok susenaim, and it says over there that he should be for you, that Avram should be for you a covering of the eyes, and his kaim bezayir vayiki zakin yitzchak batechenem einov. And it came to fruition. It actually happened that when Yitzchak Avinu got older, he was no longer able to see. So we see that even the blessing of somebody, a lowly fellow like Avimelech, should not be taken lightly. Come and see that the way of God is different than the way of man. That the way that people normally do it is you take the pot and you put it on the stove, and afterwards you fill it with the water. But the Eibishter first places water, and then he puts it in the pot. The Kaim, right? So first he puts the water, and then he puts the pot on the fire. The Kaim Ashnemar, as the pasuk says, the Kol Tito Amon Mayim Bashamayim, that to the sound of God putting lots of water in the heavens, and only afterwards it goes into the clouds. From Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Chanina, it says, Rabbi Elazar in the name of Rabbi Chanina, Kol Omer Davar B'Shem Omer Me'Vigula L'Olam. It's kind of a famous thing. Any fellow who says something in the name of the fellow who he heard it from, so he brings redemption to the world. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Vatomer Esther Lamelech B'Shem Mordechai, that Esther told the whole episode with Bigsan Vaseresh. So she told it to the king in the name of Mordechai, and look what ended up happening. Right, right. The fact that Mordechai reported Bigsan Vaseresh to Achashverosh, that kind of was the precursor to that night when Achashverosh couldn't sleep and Haman came in, etc. So we see that saying something in the name of the proper person, like Esther relayed the message in the name of Mordechai, so Me'Vigula L'Olam, Yitaka brings redemption to the world. V'Amar Belazar, Amar B'Chanina, Tzadik Avad, the Doro Avad, that if a righteous person passes away, he's passed away for his generation. Mashal Adam Sha'avdalo Margalis, it's like a fellow who loses a pearl. Kol Makom Shehu Margalis Shma, that wherever the pearl might be, it's still a pearl. It's only lost the one who owns the pearl is missing it, but the pearl itself is still a pearl. So the same thing with the tzaddik. So when a tzaddik dies, so the generation loses this tzaddik, but the tzaddik himself is still intact. So now Haman says, that none of this is worth it for me. Omer Balazar Chanina Bishar Shira Haman es Mordechai Yoshev B'Shar Melech, that when Haman saw that Mordechai was sitting there at the gate of the king, Omar Kozein and Shovali says, none of this is worth it for me. It's like Rav Chizda, the Amar of Chizda, Zeba Bepuzbuli, that Mordechai was coming with a sort of a document that says that Haman actually owes Mordechai everything that he owns. Zeba Bepuzbuti, where and Haman was coming in like his poverty, because he lost everything. Apparently Haman was very poor at one point, and Mordechai made him sign away everything that he owns. Amar Papa says, a Papa of Karule Avda de Mizdabin Betalme, and they called Haman a servant that was bought for bread. And none of this is worth it for me. So Rashi teaches that all of the sort of valuables that Haman owned, chakukin al libo, they were etched on his heart. He would have have like some kind of indication of his wealth next to his heart. When he would see Mordechai sitting in the gate of the king, he would say that none of this is worth it for me, that none of this wealth that I guess he ultimately accumulated is worth it. It drives him nuts just to see Mordechai the Jew sitting over there. In the future, God is going to be a crown for all of the righteous people. As the pasuk says, that on that day, God will be a crown. What does it mean that God's going to be like a crown? So to those who do his will and are sort of waiting for him. Yochel calls Talmud Lomer for everybody like that. Talmud Lomer the Shar the Shar Amo, for those remaining in his nation. So the Misha Mesim Atzmo Kishiraim, like a fellow who makes himself like leftovers. Somebody who's not so makbid on his own ego or anything. For the Ruach Mishpat, and to the spirit of judgment. Ze Adonis Yitzro, that's a fellow who is able to, I guess, manage his evil inclination. For the Yoshev ala Mishpat, somebody who sits on judgment. Ze Adon din Emes Lamito, that's a fellow who judges a judgment in its truth. V'le Gvura Ze Gabriel Yitzro, and in the strength is somebody who's able to overpower and to suppress his evil inclination. Mishiv Milchamo. And when it says that those people come back from war, it means the people that they are, as somebody said to me earlier today, fighting the good fight. I think I asked him how he's doing, and then I think he asked me how I'm doing. I think he said he was doing well. I think I also said that I was probably doing just fine, and then I think he said something like fighting the good fight. So I guess the good fight is the fight of Torah. Shaira in the gates, Elu Tamid Chacham, these are the Torah scholars, Mashkimun Marivim B'vatechnesos and V'vatemidrashos, who wake up early and stay late in the synagogues and study halls. Amar Midas Adin L'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I guess like the Yetzer Hara, the judgment said before God. Ribonu Shalom, Master of the world, Manishtanu Elu Me'elu. What's different from the Jews and from the non-Jews, from the Gentiles? Amar La HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So God says, Yisrael asku b'Torah, u'misa'olam lo asku b'Torah. Well, the Yidden, they study Torah. The Gentiles don't study Torah. Amar Le. So Midas Adin says to God, Kam ela b'yayin shagu v'shecher ta'u paku plilia. So yeah, but even there are nudniks among the Jews as well. In paku ela gehenim, and paku means hell. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, v'losia zos lefuka, that this shouldn't be a fuka, I guess a reference to hell. Ve'in plilia ela dayon, shneimar v'nosim b'flilim, and plilia is a reference to judges, as it says that he will place it in like the judgments in a situation where a fellow causes a pregnant woman to have a miscarriage, so he's got to sort of pay money based on judges. Alright, fine. So it says that then Esther went and she stood in the inner chamber of the king. And says Reb Levi that once Esther reached the place of the Getchkis, I guess Achashverosh had Getchkis in the palace. So when she got to the Getchkis, so Nistalki Menu Shchina, so the divinity left her. Omra, and at that point she says, Keli Keli Loma Azavtani. God, why have you forsaken me? Shema Tadon Al Shogeg Kmezid Valonis Kirotzen. Is it possible that you treat people doing by accident like people who do on purpose, people who do it against their will like people who do it intentionally? Kilu, she was going to Achashverosh and she says, look, it's not like I want to be going in right now. So Shema Al Shekarosiv Kelev, or maybe it's because he called Achashverosh, maybe it's because she called Achashverosh a dog. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Hatzila mecherev nafshi miad kelev v'chidasi, save me from swords and from dogs. Chazav v'karaso Aryas, then she went back and called Achashverosh epis a lion. Shenem, as the pasuk says, Osheni mi pi Aryeh, save me from the mouth of the lion. Alright. Esther Amalka. So it was then when the king saw Esther the queen. So there were 3 ministering angels that joined up with Esther at that moment. One of them lifted up her neck. One of them extended a thread of kindness upon her. And one of these angels extended the scepter of King Achashverosh. How long was the scepter extended? So Amr Reb Yirmiyah Shtei Amis. So Reb Yirmiyah said that the scepter was extended by 2 Amis. Shtei Amis Hoya. It was initially 2 Amis. Ve'mido al Shtei Mesriv. It was extended to 12 Amis. Ve'amrei lo, and those who say al Sheish Esrei, Taka was extended to 16 Amis. Ve'amrei lo Esim Ve'arba. Some Taka say it was extended to 24 Amis. So, alright, sounds very nice. But Masni Satana was Taka taught in a Braiso al Shishim, 60 Amis, okay. That I guess when Paro's daughter Batya extended her arm, so it was extended 60 Amis to get to Chaparain Moshe. Alright. You also find that by the teeth of the evildoers. The pasuk says, Shin Rishayim Shibarta. You've broken the teeth of the nudniks. V'amr Rish Lakish says, Rish Lakish, Atuka Shibarta ela Shrivavta. Alright, I was hoping I wasn't going to mess up the word, but I did. What do you want me to tell you? So don't read it to break it, but rather to shrivav it. So that means to like make it longer. Rabbi Bar Ofran Omar Mishum Rabbi Eliezer Sheshama Merabo Virabo Merabo Masayim. Alright. So then Rabbi Bar Ofran said the name of Rabbi Eliezer, who heard it from his rabbi, and his rabbi from his rabbi, 200. Alright, it was a long scepter, friends. Vayomer la Amelech le Esther Hamalka. So then the king says to Esther, says to Esther, he says, no, Esther, what do you want? I'll give you up to half the kingdom. So half the kingdom, but not all of the kingdom. And not something that will divide up the kingship. The rebuilding of the temple. He wasn't willing to allow her to rebuild the temple. So Esther requests, well, why don't you come, you Achashverosh, why don't you come with Haman to a feast? So the rabbis want to know, how come Esther invited Haman to come to the feast? So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Pachim Tomnalo. So Rabbi Eliezer says, well, she was setting a trap for him. Shenebas says Yi Shulchanim Lefneim Lepach, that their tables should be in front of them like a trap. Rabbi Yeshua Omer says Rabbi Yeshua Mi Beis Avia Lamda. Well, Esther learned from her father's house. Alright. I thought she was an orphan. I don't know, maybe from Mordechai or something. Shneimar, as the pasuk says in Rav Sonacha Echeleu Lechem. We're going with it. The pasuk says, if your enemy is evil, feed him bread. So, is hungry, feed him bread. So her enemy, Haman, was hungry. She fed him bread. Reb Meir Omer says, Reb Meir Kadesh Lo Yitol Eitza V'Yimrod, so that Haman shouldn't go elsewhere and get advice somewhere and then rebel. Meaning, if she brings him there, she knows where he is and what he's up to. Reb Yehuda Omer says, Reb Yehuda Kadesh Lo Yakiru Ba She Yehudis, so that they shouldn't recognize that she's Jewish. So by inviting Haman, the arch enemy of the Jews, so then it would indicate that she herself is not a Jew. Reb Nechemia Omer says, Reb Nechemia Kadesh Lo Yom Yisrael Achos Yishlanu B'Veis HaMelech V'Yasichu Daitem Min HaRachamim. Says Reb Nechemia that, well, if it would just be Esther and Achashverosh, so then the Yidden might say, okay, don't worry, Esther's taking care of it. But when it was Esther and Achashverosh, but also Haman, so they're still scared, because why is Haman involved? Haman's a scary guy, and they would keep on davening. But if it was just Esther and Achashverosh, they might think, okay, Esther's taking care of it, we don't need to daven. Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi Kadesh Matzu Lo B'Chol Eis. Yossi says she just wanted to keep Haman close so that he's available at any time. Okay. Reb Shimon ben Menashe Omer Ula Yargish Hamakom V'Yaiseh Lanu Neis. Reb Shimon ben Menashe says that, well, maybe God will have mercy and see the situation and do a miracle for us. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Omer says, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha Asbir Lo Ponim Kadesh Yeharig Hu Vahi. So Esther, so says Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha that Esther actually invited Haman, because by inviting Haman, maybe Achashverosh would get nervous that maybe she's having an affair with Haman, and then he would kill both of them. But Megilla, even though she would get killed, but if Haman also got killed, then the whole plan would basically fall apart. Rabbi Gamliel Omer says, Rabbi Gamliel Melech HaPach Pachon Haya, that he would kind of change his mind very often. That Achashverosh would change his mind very often, and therefore, if he had an idea to kill Haman, she wanted Haman to be available to get killed immediately, not that they had to find him, because maybe then he would change his mind. Amar Rabbi Gamliel says, Rabbi Gamliel Adayin Tzrichen Anu L'Modai. However, we still need what we learned from Modai, from Rabbi Eliezer HaModai. The Tanis we can learn in the Brisa. Rabbi Eliezer HaModai Omer says, Rabbi Eliezer HaModai Kin also b'melech, kin also b'sarim, that she made him jealous with the king and with the officers. That by inviting Haman, she made Achashverosh jealous, she made all the other officers jealous, and sort of created sort of negative vibes around Haman. Rabba Amar the Finishev Gaon, says Rabba that before breaking comes greatness. So right before he was about to go down, he kind of hit his high point of being invited to the party. Abai Rabba Damit Abai says Abai and Rava Bechumam Oshisis Mishteim Begomer, that they'll have like a feast and then they'll kind of fall apart. What does it say there in the pasuk? If you continue in the pasuk, it says that they'll fall asleep forever and never wake up. That doesn't sound very good. So Rabba Ba'avua Taka found Elijah, the prophet Elijah, Esther, so he wanted to know from Elijah, look, we have about 1 million opinions about why Esther invited Haman to come to the party. Which one is right? And Elijah says all of these Tanoim and Amoraim are right. Alright. And Haman was boasting to his family about his wealth and all of his kids. How many kids did he have? Rav Shloshim. Rav says he had 30 kids. Asara Mesu, Vasara Nislu, Vasara Machzirin al Psochim. Out of the 30 kids, 10 of them died, 10 of them were hanged, and 10 of them were like going around begging for money. And the rabbis say, Osin Shemachazin al Psochim, those who are walking around begging for money, Shivim Habya. They would taka 70 of them. The pasuk says, Sveim Balechem Niskaru, that those who were satisfied with bread, I guess, were made money. Atuke Sveim Ela Shivim. Don't read it satisfied, rather Shivim 70, that there were 70 of those fellows looking for bread. Rami Bar Abba, Omar says, Rami Bar Abba, Kulan Masayim Vishmona Havu. There were actually 208 of them. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Virov Banav. Virov Bigmacha Mason Varbesa Havu. Well, it says Virov Banav. If you look at the Gemacha Virov, so that's 214. So why are we saying it's 208? So Omer of Nachman by Yitzchak Virav Ksiv. It says Virav Kilu without one of the vav, so it's 208. Alright, so you had 208 kids. But wow, that sounds like a handful. So that night, so the king couldn't sleep. So this is Tanchum, that the sleep of God, of the master of the world, the king of the world, got interrupted. The rabbis say that the upper worlds got all, shooken up, as well as the lower worlds. Rava Omer says, Rava Shnas HaMelech Achashverosh Mamis. So says Rava, no, Taka means that Achashverosh couldn't sleep. Nafla le milsa bedaite. He had a thought. Omer, my dekama de zaminte Esther lahaman. He couldn't sleep all night. He says, this doesn't make any sense. How come Esther is inviting Haman to this suda, to this mishta, to this party? Dilma etza koshakli lovid gavra lemigdale. Maybe Haman and Esther are trying to kill me. Hadar Amar, he then says, Yachi, and let's say they were trying to kill me. Lava gavra derachimli, dava modali. There's nobody who cares about me that would let me know. If in fact Esther and Haman were scheming against me to kill me, who would let me know and who would care about me enough to take care of me and to save me? Is it possible that there's somebody who's done me a favor, done something good for me, and I never paid him back? And maybe if there was somebody who helped me out and I didn't pay him back, people wouldn't help me out anymore. And if in fact Esther and Haman are scheming against me, nobody's going to save me. So Miyad immediately, he said, why don't you bring me the book of records, which teaches that they were read on their own. I guess somehow magically, they're read on their own. But because he was out of concern that maybe Haman and Esther were trying to kill him, that's why he was, he said, hey, let me see if maybe there's anybody who I need to pay back for having done something good for me, so that they will continue to pay it forward, and to let me know if they have any inside information about Haman and Esther trying to kill me. Alright friends, that was Daf Tes Vav from Masechet Megillah. A lot of psukim and things from the Megillah that we continued expounding about the story of the Jews in Shushan, with starring Esther and Mordechai and Haman and Achashverosh. Friends, have a great day. Peace out.